In an associative array, the element's key acts as a sort of label, and when looping through an associative array, you have the option to work only with the array values or with both the keys, in other words the labels, and the values independently. If you're interested only in the values of each array element, you can use a for-each loop in exactly the same way as earlier in this chapter with an indexed array. That's one that uses numbered keys. Let's refresh our memory of how that's done. Let's imagine that all we want to do is to display the content of each tagline in this features array. So we just scroll down a bit further into the page, and under this H2 heading here, we'll add a PHP block. And inside the block, we want a for-each loop. For-each, remember, is written as a single word. Don't split them up. Then the condition goes in parentheses. It's the features array. And then we use the as keyword to assign the value of each element to a temporary variable. Doesn't matter what you call it, but seeing as we've got an array called features, it seems sensible to use the singular feature. And then the loop itself goes inside a pair of curly braces. And inside the loop, we want to use echo to display the value. I'm going to use a double-quoted string. We need p tags at the beginning and end of each line, so it'll be open p tag, then feature. Because we're using a double-quoted string, that value will be displayed. Then a closing p tag, closing double quote, and a semicolon. There we are. Let's save that page and view the result in a browser. So we need to change to a different folder. It's the 04_08 folder, and the name of that file was foreach_assoc. And there are the values. They've been displayed by that for-each loop in a series of paragraphs. But it's often more useful to get access to both the key, in other words the label, and the value. You do that by using two temporary variables inside the for-each loop. So let's go back to our editor and see how that's done. Scroll down a little bit under this second H2 heading, add another PHP block. And inside that PHP block, we need a for-each loop. As before, the first part of the condition is the name of the array that we're dealing with, which is features. And we also need to use the as keyword. And then we need two variables. It doesn't matter what you call the variables, but sometimes it can be difficult to decide. And I find that key and value really tell you exactly what you're working with. So that's what I'm going to use. So it's key, and then you use the double arrow, equal sign, greater than sign, and then value, a closing parenthesis, and then the loop goes inside a pair of curly braces. So inside here, I can have another double-quoted string, begin with an opening p tag, and then the caption for the key feature is value. And a closing quote. No, we don't want that. We need a closing paragraph tag first, and then our closing quote and a semicolon. There we are. Let's just save that and go back to the browser, refresh, and then if I scroll down, the caption for the winter feature, that's the key, is, and there's the value. The caption for the spring feature, there's the key, and there's the value. So we're working with both the keys and the values by using those two temporary variables within the for-each loop. So let's just go back to the editor and see that structure again, because it's a very important structure. It's for each, then the name of the array that you want to move through, the as keyword, then one variable for the label or the key, followed by a double arrow and another variable for the value. And you can use both the key and the value in your loop. And if you're interested only in the names of the keys, which sometimes happens, you still need to use this structure. You just ignore the second value after the double arrow. So you have two ways of looping through an associative array with a for each loop. If it's only the values of each array element that you're interested in, assign the array variable to a temporary variable with the as keyword, and use the temporary variable to get the current value inside the loop. If you want both the keys and the values, use two temporary variables separated by a double arrow. Inside the loop, the first temporary variable represents the current key, and the second represents the current value.